You've loved someone for 15 years. You've given them your heart, your soul, your everything. And on the day they choose to propose to someone else, they deliberately pick the exact same day you're leaving the country. This isn't just heartbreak. This is calculated cruelty. But what happens when the girl who was supposed to cry and beg simply walks away? What happens when she doesn't just move on, but moves up? This is Emma's story. And trust me, you won't see this ending coming. James had always been calculated, cold, precise. So when he chose the day I was leaving for Germany to propose to his beloved Ava, I knew it wasn't a coincidence. It was a message. He confided in his fiancée that night, explaining his strategy with the kind of detachment you'd use to discuss the weather. Emma has a playful side, he told Ava, but she's gentle underneath. I've arranged for her to stay in Germany permanently. She won't be coming back. Our entire friend group was on edge. They were terrified I'd make some dramatic, last-minute flight back to New York. They pictured me sobbing at the airport, causing a scene, begging him to reconsider. They had no idea how wrong they were. While James was slipping that engagement ring onto Ava's finger, I was accepting a proposal from another man. While he was making promises he'd probably break, I was making plans for a future he'd never be part of. Within 2 weeks, I'd said yes to someone else. Within 2 weeks, I'd packed up 15 years of memories and shipped them back to the boy who never deserved them in the first place. But before I left, I had one final gesture to make. Chapter 2. The room fell silent when I walked in. Not the comfortable silence of anticipation, but the suffocating quiet of held breath and unspoken tension. I'd come to return everything. Every gift, every token, every piece of jewelry he'd given me over the past decade, including the ring I'd treasured since my 18th birthday, when I foolishly thought a drunken kiss meant something more. The weight of that moment pressed down on everyone present. Guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unsure whether to look at me or look away. Then Ava broke the silence. Come on, James. She laughed, but there was an edge to it. You're making Emma look bad. She's still young. A 21-year-old girl in the corner scoffed loudly. Young. She's practically ancient for this kind of drama. Laughter rippled through the room, but I stood my ground. I wasn't leaving in humiliation. Not this time. My perception of James began to blur as I looked at him. This man I'd loved for so long suddenly seemed like a stranger. Emma, his voice cut through the room like glass. Do I need to explain everything to you again? He flicked ash from his cigarette with practiced indifference. I've been clear about rejecting you since you were 16. The words hit me like a physical blow, but I managed to keep standing. That's because you're an adopted daughter. He continued, each word carefully chosen to wound. Any mistake on your part would only bring disgrace to your adoptive parents. Chapter 3. The kiss that meant nothing. What about that kiss on my 18th birthday? I countered, my voice barely above a whisper. For just a moment James's mask slipped. I saw something flicker across his face. Disgust, regret, I couldn't tell. Emma, you were drunk that night, causing a major disturbance. I just wanted to end the chaos quickly. The room spun around me. All those years of hope built on a foundation of sand. But then I started laughing. The sound bubbled up from somewhere deep inside me, part hysteria, part relief. Even as tears streamed down my face, I couldn't stop. James. I managed between gasps. You've had 4 girlfriends over the years. But every time I caused a scene, you broke up with them. Can you honestly claim you didn't have any feelings for me? His answer was swift and brutal. It's because I hadn't met the woman I truly loved. He reached out and pulled Ava into his embrace, right there in front of everyone. In front of me. Listen carefully. Emma, I'll only say this once. I love Ava. I'm going to marry her. Your little tricks won't work this time. Ava gazed up at him with perfect, practiced shyness. James, she whispered. Without hesitation, he leaned down and kissed her. She wrapped her arms around his neck, standing on her toes to meet him halfway. Their kiss was intimate, passionate, performative. As though no one else existed in that moment. As though I didn't exist. Chapter 4. The move. James moved out of the family villa the day after I left for Germany. He chose that day deliberately, just like he'd chosen his proposal date. Always calculating. Always one step ahead. Or so he thought. I was busy with graduation projects when he moved in with Ava. I didn't rush to find him. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't even call. For the first time in 15 years, I simply let him go. That evening, I attended a graduation dinner with my classmates. Normal, healthy, free. In the bathroom I ran into Ava. Emma, she said, her voice bright with false cheer. James is here too. Want to join us? I shook my head. I've made plans with my classmates, I'll pass. Suddenly Ava's eyes filled with tears. Emma, I come from a modest background. My uncle and aunt already dislike me. Can you stop speaking ill of me to them? I stared at her, genuinely confused. Ava, I've never said anything about you to our elders. But she pressed on, her voice trembling with manufactured emotion. I know you've had feelings for James for many years. It's hard to accept me being with him. I understand, but Emma, we're all women. Isn't it better to be kind in our actions and words? Something inside me snapped. My temperament is much like my mom's, I said firmly, straightforward and without games. Before I could finish, Ava suddenly dropped to her knees. Emma, I beg you. I was so startled I moved forward to help her up. But before I could touch her, she threw herself backward, hitting the floor hard. Emma, what are you doing? James's angry voice rang out behind me. A powerful force shoved me aside, and my knee struck the edge of the wall. Pain shot through me, sharp and intense. James, don't misunderstand, Ava sobbed. Emma didn't mean to. You're defending her. James's eyes were cold with fury. I've had enough of her games since we were kids. Fob Chapter 5. The apology. My knee was bleeding. 2 bright red lines traced down to my ankle. But James acted as though he hadn't noticed, looking at me like I was the villain in someone else's story. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. I apologized, James. He seemed momentarily taken aback, but quickly grew more annoyed. Not enough. I straightened up and bowed deeply. Is this okay? Ava watched me, her lips slightly curved in the faintest smile before she quickly dissolved into sobs again. Please, James, let it go, she whispered. I can't take this anymore, James declared. Emma, I've told you, Ava is different. Bullying her won't make me break up with her. It will only make me cherish her more and dislike you. He carried Ava away, leaving me standing there alone. I stood there for a long, long time. My knee throbbed painfully, but my heart felt both empty and strangely light. In that moment, something shifted. Any obsession or infatuation I'd carried for 15 years simply vanished. Pike Chapter 6. The decision that night, Ava posted 3 tweets in succession. Screenshots were sent to me by some malicious individuals in our social circle, especially highlighting James's replies. In the past, I would have rushed to James, crying and causing trouble. He would grow impatient but eventually give in, leading me to mistakenly believe he cared. But this time, I ignored it completely. Instead, I made a phone call. Auntie, it's Emma. Regarding what you mentioned 7 days ago, I've made a decision. When I was 7, my parents died in an accident. My uncle, who was close to my dad, took me in. Auntie had been my mom's best friend growing up, but she'd eloped with her lover and they'd lost contact. After wandering halfway around the world, she'd finally settled in Germany. By then, my parents had already passed away. Auntie wanted me to live in Germany. She also wanted to fulfill a promise she'd made with my mom when they were young. For me to marry into her family and become her daughter-in-law. 7 days ago, I hadn't agreed. I'd said I would think about it, not wanting to hurt her feelings. But tonight, I'd suddenly let go of all those years of obsession. That one-sided love seemed silly and ridiculous now. I didn't want to be the laughingstock anymore. Emma, Auntie's voice was filled with joy. Lucas has been waiting for you to say yes so he can fly to New York and propose. I held the phone, feeling an unexpected warmth spread through me. 15 years of living together, 7 years of loving him. It turned out it only took 7 days to completely let go. Poppy Chapter 7. The departure. James and Ava deliberately chose my departure day for their engagement. As a result, not many people came to bid me farewell. When I disembarked from the plane in Germany, I turned on my phone. Messages flooded in, mostly about James and Ava's engagement. I simply laughed it off, deleting and blocking their contacts immediately. Before heading to Germany, I'd met Lucas. I didn't want any drama or attention, and Lucas respected my wishes. He proposed quietly, and we exchanged rings just like that. Now my account had an additional $1 billion as a bride price. On my ring finger, I wore a simple band that somehow felt more precious than any gift James had ever given me. As I was about to enter the car Lucas's family had sent, my phone suddenly rang. It was James's cousin Gina. Emma, my brother's engagement is about to start. Where are you? I just arrived in Germany. Then hurry back? You can still make it? I responded calmly. Why should I go back? Gina was taken aback. Emma, are you out of your mind? If you don't come back to cry and make a scene, my brother is truly going to be with someone else. Why should I come back and make a scene? Isn't it your brother's happy day? Gina's voice suddenly rose. Are you crazy? I was about to hang up when Ava's voice came through the phone. Emma, aren't you attending our engagement? James always saw you as a sister, so that makes me your sister-in-law. I'd love your blessing. I glanced at Lucas standing by the car. His tall frame and gentle eyes put me at ease. Sure, I replied. I wish you both all the best. Chapter 8. The realization. Meanwhile, back in New York, James was in the garden with some friends smoking. He kept glancing at Gina and the others, probably receiving updates about Emma again. This was the usual pattern. Anytime another woman was around him, they'd inform Emma, and then Emma would come crying to him. He always disliked needy women and found them annoying, so he would just dismiss them. This time was likely no different. That's why he'd chosen the day I left for Germany. But something felt off. "James, what if Emma comes back to cause trouble?" one friend asked. "Yeah, you're getting engaged to someone else. She's going to flip out. She seemed pretty calm lately. Even with you and Ava getting cozy, she didn't react." The cigarette in James's fingers had a long ash dangling. He'd forgotten to flick it off, lost in thought about his friend's comments. Emma had been unusually quiet these days. But knowing her, she wasn't one to remain silent. He'd rejected her countless times over the years, but she was always resilient, never considering giving up. Sure, she was older now. A bit more mature. Suddenly, a thought struck him and he chuckled, stubbing out his cigarette. "Just wait and see. She's never been one to stay put. So you think Emma will come back to stir things up?" But James didn't respond, but he was fairly certain. That girl always had love on her mind. During her teenage years, she'd read romance novels day and night, practicing all sorts of crazy antics on him. He knew her well, and he was willing to bet she'd show up just as the engagement began. "Make sure security keeps an eye out," he instructed. "Don't let any chaos break out." As he finished speaking, Gina rushed up, dragging her dress behind her. "Emma's here, right outside the gate." James felt an odd sense of joy, but quickly concealed it with a frown. "She's causing trouble again. She never learns. What do we do now? If she causes a scene, our family will be humiliated." James's expression hardened as he strode outside. "I'll see what games she's playing." Femme Fatale Chapter 9 The Surprise. But when James reached the main entrance, he didn't see Emma. Her pink minicar was parked quietly there, but standing by it was her best friend Sarah. James's steps suddenly halted. Something gently tugged at his heart, making it sink. That's when he remembered. Emma had given this car to Sarah before leaving New York. When Sarah saw him, she immediately approached. James noticed she held a red envelope in her hand. Sarah wore no expression and got straight to the point. "Emma asked me to bring you and Ava some gifts." But James didn't reach out to take them. Sarah frowned slightly and added, "There's one more thing." "Go ahead." "Emma left in a hurry and didn't really get a chance to see you. She tried calling a few times, but you didn't answer, so she couldn't get it back." Sarah's voice grew colder. "On your last birthday, she gave you an antique brooch. It was a token of love from her mom to her dad." Sarah smirked a little and continued. "Emma mentioned that this brooch is meant for her future husband. Leaving it with you now just doesn't fit. Mr. James, can you give the brooch to me? I'll take it to her when I visit Emma in Germany." Farve Chapter 10. The brooch. James suddenly looked down. His eyes landed on the blue shimmer resting on his chest. When he dressed that morning, he'd chosen this sapphire brooch for some reason. It didn't exactly match his suit, but he hadn't changed it. Now, as he looked at the brooch again, he felt only discomfort. Future husband, huh? His voice was strangely hollow. How could she marry someone else when she liked me so much? She didn't come herself and sent Sarah to ask for the brooch. Honestly, her actions have really thrown me off. James finished and turned to leave, but Sarah quickly stopped him. "Mr. James, please wait a moment. I'll call Emma right now. Emma is getting married. Such an important brooch cannot stay with another man. Emma reminded me several times to ensure the brooch was brought to her wedding so she could personally pin it on her groom." Sarah had never liked James. Emma had always been so stubborn. Like a fool hung up on him for so many years, only to be cast aside. Sarah felt the urge to slap James every time she thought about it. But now Emma had finally moved on and found such a wonderful man. Sarah was genuinely happy for her. This trip was important, she couldn't fail. Fate Chapter 11. The phone call. When I got the call from Sarah, I was already almost at Lucas's place. "Sarah, what's up?" "Emma, I went to James like you asked for the brooch, but he wouldn't give it up. He said if you wanted it, you'd have to ask for it yourself." I glanced at Lucas beside me, feeling a little sheepish. We were still practically strangers, even though he acted polite and refined. There was a strong aura of authority around him that was hard to ignore. He'd taken a work call earlier in the car, giving orders with such decisiveness. That natural air of authority made me feel even more green and youthful. I hadn't even responded to Sarah, when the phone was suddenly taken over by James's voice. "Emma, do you want the brooch, or are you just causing trouble?" I was taken aback, then laughed in disbelief. "If you're trying to ruin my engagement to Ava, I'd advise you not to bother. If you want the brooch, take it back the way you gave it." Such a precious thing shouldn't go through someone else's hands. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my tone calm. Sarah is my best friend. You can give it to her. I'll take responsibility for any consequences. James laughed coldly. Emma, how clear do I need to be? However it was given to me, that's how it should be taken back. The call ended abruptly. Pipey Chapter 12 The memory. I felt both angry and humiliated, my face gradually flushing red. How did I give him that brooch? On my 18th birthday, James and I got drunk. It was in my bedroom on the 3rd floor of James's old house. He pressed me against the door and kissed me passionately. By the end, I could barely stand, and he was clearly moved. But he somehow managed to stop. Before he left, I called out to him and put the brooch in his hand. I explained the significance of the brooch to him. He didn't say anything, but he kept it. That made me think he silently accepted my feelings. The past few years felt like a terrible dream. Now that I'd woken up, I just wanted to put it all behind me. I thought James would happily return the brooch, as if discarding trash. But I never expected him to say what he did. It was only then I realized the foolishness of youth always comes with a price. If the brooch didn't hold such meaning, I wouldn't bother taking it back. But now I was getting married. It wasn't fair to Lucas to leave the brooch with James. Something wrong? Lucas's voice suddenly broke through my thoughts. I instinctively looked up, my eyes meeting his deep gaze. The feelings inside were so hard to swallow. I didn't want to hide them, but our current unfamiliarity made it difficult to express. No. I eventually shook my head. I was just thinking, even if I have to ask James's dad for help, I'll do whatever it takes to get that brooch back. I made up my mind and began to relax. It's really no big deal, just a little thing with James. I put on a carefree look and gave Lucas a smile. I can handle it. Lucas didn't press any further, he just nodded gently. All right, if anything gets tough, Emma, you can always find me. After all, you're my fiancé now. Hearing him say, fiancé, made the back of my neck warm. I'm engaged now. In just 2 more weeks, I'll be marrying him. There was a bittersweet feeling in my heart, somewhat vague, but also tinged with hopeful joy. Fab Chapter 13 Coming home, we arrived at Lucas's house. He exited the car first, then turned to help me. I noticed the engagement ring on his middle finger. Since the day he put it on, he hadn't taken it off. Lucas helped me out of the car. Once I was out, he didn't let go of my hand. Instead, he held it naturally. At first, it felt a bit uneasy. But his hand was warm and dry. His fingers were long and strong. My heart suddenly settled down. It felt like this was how it was meant to be. Lucas! Auntie saw us walking hand in hand. She was instantly all smiles. Before we even got close, she quickly approached us, scooping me into a hug with tears streaming down her face. Emma, you look so much like your mom when she was young. My tears couldn't be held back anymore. Her scent smelled so familiar, just like my mom's faint memory. Lucas, off to the side, shook his head a bit helplessly. He handed us tissues. Auntie, you and Emma hugging and crying like this. Someone might think I bullied you both. Auntie had married Lucas's dad when she was 40. She never had children, but she treated children without blood ties as her own. Lucas always respected her. I'd known that for a long time. Still, I never quite understood why Lucas accepted this engagement. After all, it had nothing to do with him. But Auntie told me not to worry, saying I'd understand the reason someday. So I didn't probe further. Auntie chuckled and helped me dry my tears. She held my hand tightly. Emma, come home with Auntie. I instinctively looked at Lucas. He was looking at me too. Behind him, the trees were lush and green. When I looked over, Lucas's eyes were filled with gentle smiles. He reached out his hand to me. Emma, let's go home. Fampe Chapter 14. The wedding preparations. My wedding with Lucas was scheduled for 2 weeks later. There wasn't much time, but Lucas's family took the union of their eldest son very seriously. They'd been planning it for years. Consequently, despite being busy, everything was proceeding smoothly. Auntie mentioned that when Lucas was a child, he became seriously ill. After his recovery, his family consulted a master who advised that he should marry by September of his 27th year to ensure a smooth, healthy and prosperous life. His family took this advice earnestly. So once I accepted the engagement, everyone in Lucas's family was overjoyed. I received numerous valuable gifts. The most meaningful was a pair of jade bangles from Lucas's birth mother. When Lucas presented them to me, I felt touched but also guilty and uneasy. The best thing to reciprocate would have been my mother's brooch, which she'd given to my father. But it was currently with James. Maybe Lucas noticed I was feeling down. He took me to the garden and asked with concern, Emma, are you okay? The bangles on my wrist glimmered in deep green. Even though I wasn't knowledgeable about luxury items, I could recognize their value. I dislike when people are kind to me in small ways and I can't repay them exponentially. I mentally went through a list of gifts I could give Lucas, but nothing seemed adequate. I was already feeling guilty and upset. Then I caught Lucas's gentle gaze. For some reason, when I finally released James from my heart, I didn't cry. When I left New York after 21 years, I didn't cry. When James refused to return that brooch, I didn't cry. But at that moment, tears began to stream down my face. Lucas became somewhat flustered. Despite being a perfect gentleman from a good family, it was evident he lacked experience in comforting girls. As he dabbed my tears with a handkerchief, his movements were somewhat awkward. I laughed through my tears. "Lucas, you're messing up my makeup." "You were wearing makeup?" he asked earnestly. "I thought you were naturally beautiful." I admitted, I can be a bit vain and superficial at times. Just like that, I felt happier. "Lucas, are you this smooth because you've dated many girls? Do childhood crushes count?" I widened my eyes. "You didn't date much as you grew older." If I said no, it would be a lie. While studying abroad in college, I dated a girl. We realized we weren't compatible, so we ended things amicably. "Any crushes since then?" Lucas paused for a moment. "Yeah, there was someone. Just my luck. She wasn't interested in me." I somewhat understood then. Maybe he only agreed to this marriage because someone he liked loved someone else. Suddenly, a hint of bitterness surfaced within me. But I quickly consoled myself. This was for the best. At least I wouldn't feel too guilty internally. When I left Lucas's house that day, Lucas said, "Emma, I hope you'll see me as your future husband from the bottom of your heart. I know you're always independent and capable, but letting your guard down sometimes would make me happy too." I felt as though my heart had opened up a bit. "Lucas, I will." Chapter 15. The gifts I gave Lucas: a pair of cufflinks and a tie clip. Not particularly expensive, but something I'd whimsically designed myself. Clean lines, elegant curves. I hadn't designed them for James back then. I was simply missing my parents, so I transformed my longing into pencil sketches. My wedding plans were moving into high gear, but Lucas's family hadn't announced who his bride was yet. I was new at school and didn't want to boast. Additionally, my situation with James wasn't resolved. When James had me go to Germany for school, he likely intended all along to prevent my return to New York. So when the house staff packed my belongings, nearly everything was sent to Germany. This included every gift James had given me over the past 10 years. Among them was an expensive pink diamond ring. A birthday present from James when I turned 18. It had once been my most cherished possession. Previously, whenever I felt sad, seeing that ring would instantly lift my spirits. Because gifts like rings always held more significance than other jewelry. But now I gradually began to understand that when someone doesn't truly care for you, or their feelings aren't sincere, even a marriage contract between the two of you feels meaningless, let alone these material possessions. As I sorted through the items James had given me one by one, my heart was unexpectedly calm. Not even a flicker of disturbance. Eventually, the jewelry box was empty, but my heart felt lighter than ever. As I packed them up, ready to send them back, a few Instagram notifications appeared on my phone from the stable staff. My little horse was ill, appearing listless and refusing to eat. Looking at the photos immediately brought tears to my eyes. The staff mentioned that the pony might be missing me because I usually visited it every few days, but this time I hadn't gone as scheduled. I quickly called to check on it. "Miss Emma, Mr. James is actually here too. Let me have him talk to you." I paused briefly before hearing James's clear voice. "Emma, when you first got that pony, what did you say? Forgotten already?" Of course not. I hadn't forgotten. All the kids in the family have their own pets. But the only rule is to fully take responsibility for the pet they choose and care for it properly. Absolutely no abandonment halfway. But wasn't your decision to study in Germany something you made 6 months ago, Emma? James suddenly let out a cold chuckle. "Since when did you ever listen? You've always been troublesome since you were young, haven't you? Mom and Dad adore you. They can't bear to see you leave. If you shed a tear, at the end of the day, you're not really that interested in your pony." In that moment, James's heart skipped a beat as he seemed to grasp his own underlying message. Emma didn't truly care about him either, or she wouldn't have gone to Germany. She wouldn't remain unmoved upon learning about his engagement. She wouldn't skip his engagement party or return the brooch he gave her. "I'll find time to visit it if possible. I might bring it to Germany. Are you planning to never come back to New York?" James's voice suddenly carried a hint of anger. I simply looked down and laughed. "Maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna get married in Germany. Naturally, my life's focus will shift here." But there was no need to inform James of all this. "Emma, you're still as stubborn and childish as ever. Haven't grown a bit." James's voice grew colder. You better not regret this. Regret what? I responded. What are you regretting, Emma? Ava and I are already engaged and the wedding date is being set. And then, Emma, don't tell me you don't understand. If I really marry Iva, then what? I laughed, feeling relieved and free. James, I'll sincerely wish both of you well. Truly. There was sudden silence from James on the other end of the call. I didn't wait for him to respond. I gently hung up the phone. Floppy Chapter 16, the final goodbye. When I was 16, my feelings began to develop relentlessly. Stubbornly I refused to call him brother. Now, nearly 6 years had passed, and he had finally returned to his original, rightful place. I don't hate him. Don't blame him. After so many years together, I sincerely wish him well. I called Uncle John. After a friendly conversation about how he and Aunt Mary were doing, I gently brought up the brooch. Uncle John, back then I was young and reckless, made a lot of jokes. Looking back now, I feel regret and shame. Since James is already engaged, I think it's best not to create unnecessary misunderstandings. Uncle John sighed over the phone. Emma, I've always liked you. Always cared about you. In fact, I've always wanted you to be my daughter-in-law. Your Aunt Mary gets teary whenever she talks about you these days. I also feel heartbroken. His sadness was genuine, due to their deep affection for me. Uncle, matters of the heart can't be forced. I'm not feeling wronged. I've come to terms with it, and moved on. I'll make sure to get that brooch back for you. In a few days, your aunt and I will be heading to Germany for a wedding. I'll personally bring the brooch to you then. I thanked him and ended the call. The staff responsible for handling valuable shipments had arrived by that time. The gift boxes were loaded onto the truck and would soon be safely returned to James. In a few days, Uncle John and Aunt Mary would come to Germany to return my sapphire brooch. Those foolish, laughable youthful days would finally come to a complete end. Potkey Chapter 17 The Realization. Meanwhile, James got drunk again at a friend's party. When he emerged from the bathroom, he overheard Sarah on the phone. I'm leaving for Germany tomorrow. I promised I'd be your only bridesmaid. Oh, and did you pick the best man? Huh, you picked 7 groomsmen for me. Oh my god, Emma, I'm so in love with you, babe. James stood in the long, empty hallway. Sarah's excited voice seemed to echo in his ears. But in the end, only Emma stuck with him. He thought he must have been drunk. Otherwise, why would he hear such an absurd joke? Yeah, he was drunk. Really drunk. That's why he thought he heard things. Or maybe he just missed Emma so much that he turned someone else's name into Emma's in his head. James suddenly stumbled over to Sarah. Sarah, having just ended her call, was startled. James, who are you talking to? James stared into Sarah's eyes. I heard you say you're going to a wedding in Germany, and I heard Emma's name. His handsome face was slightly contorted. His usually flirtatious eyes reddened. He forced a smile, but it was cold and twisted. Don't tell me you're attending Emma's wedding. Sarah was initially shocked by his expression, but then snapped back. For how many years have you upset Emma? How many tears has she shed? She feels immense satisfaction seeing you like this. Sarah's voice grew stronger. Rista. Perfect in the good family, getting what you deserve. Didn't you enjoy toying with people's hearts? Didn't you love seeing those who liked you worry over you? You'll have plenty of opportunities to experience that feeling yourself someday. But I won't reveal the truth. Emma didn't want me to, so I won't. I won't let James know and crash the wedding in Germany. That was my dearest friend's happiest day. There's no way I'd let a jerk like him ruin it. Well, you misheard. I'm going to Germany for a wedding with Emma, but it's our old classmate getting married. James didn't seem convinced. I wasn't aware Emma had any close friends in Germany. Sarah chuckled. James, have you ever truly cared about Emma? Genuinely tried to understand her? Have you ever considered her feelings? Put yourself in her shoes. Sarah's voice grew cold. James, you haven't. You never knew how amazing our Emma is. And you never deserved her admiration or love for all those years. Sarah finished and turned to leave. James watched her walk away, feeling a sudden pain in his heart. He didn't even know why it hurt. Just an urgent, overwhelming need to see Emma. Even if only once. Fape Chapter 18 The package. But the next day, James received a large package shipped from Germany. The reason it arrived so quickly was that Lucas had his shipping company arrange a special flight to New York. At the time, I was busy and excited with wedding rehearsals, unaware of all this. When James opened those boxes, his hands trembled inexplicably. At first, the items seemed unfamiliar. But soon, a flood of memories overwhelmed him. The first Hermes bag he'd bought for Emma. The first pearl necklace. The car keys to her first car. A box filled with colorful gems. And lastly, the pink diamond ring. James held the small pink box, and suddenly his vision blurred. James, when are you planning to marry Emma? Friends used to tease him like that back then. He was young, rebellious, and arrogant. Many girls pursued him, but none interested him. 18-year-old Emma was beautiful and delicate, like a ripe peach. Taking her out sparked envy everywhere, which he secretly loved. Such a pretty Emma liked only him. Back then, he thought he'd marry her. Or rather, deep down, he always knew he would. That's why he gave her the pink diamond ring. But when did he start getting tired of Emma? When did new flings surpass first love? Was he truly over her? Or just certain she'd never leave him? James tightly gripped the ring and, absurdly, began to cry. Pompeii Chapter 19, The Wedding Rehearsal. Meanwhile, I was busy with last-minute wedding rehearsals, unaware of James's reaction upon seeing those gifts from the past decade. Especially that cherished pink diamond ring. As Lucas kissed me for the first time during rehearsal, I didn't know that James had slapped Ava over that ring. How ironic. When Ava tried to frame me, when James pushed me and I hurt my knee, none of us anticipated such a day. But James and Ava were now irrelevant in my life. I didn't care at all. When Uncle John brought the brooch to me, I shared the news of my upcoming wedding with them. They were surprised because the wedding they were coming to Germany for was Lucas's family's arranged match for their eldest son. The mysterious fiancé whom even the sharpest media couldn't photograph turned out to be me. They were happy for me, but also tearfully regretful. Especially Aunt Mary. She held my hand tightly, refusing to let go. Emma, I don't want you to cry on your big day, but I just feel so let down. It's my fault for not raising my son right. As a result, every step he takes is a mistake. James wanted to break up with Ava, but Ava insisted. Her entire entourage also caused a scene at James's place, threatening to stay put. Anyway, they were barefoot and unafraid of those wearing shoes. While the two were turning his world upside down, Ava discovered she was pregnant. James's family wouldn't make a girl get an abortion, so their wedding seemed inevitable. I teared up thinking about when I first went to James's house, crying every night for my parents. The scenes of Aunt Mary hugging and comforting me. Remembering those carefree days when they loved me like their own daughter brought tears to my eyes. In the end, Emma, it's James who isn't lucky enough. Auntie wiped my tears and sighed, but seemed truly relieved. Lucas's family has an excellent reputation, and Lucas himself is outstanding among the new generation of Germans. Emma, you're going to be happy. I know that. With a gentle and refined man like Lucas, even if he didn't love me, I'd still have a happy life. But I never expected happiness to be far more intense than I had imagined. Pompeii Chapter 20, The Truth Revealed. When I pinned that sapphire brooch on Lucas, he showed me a photo. In the picture, I was holding a trophy, smiling brightly in a certain direction. Below the stage, Lucas was standing next to me, smiling at me. It was during that horse racing event when I won the championship. The presenter was Lucas. But back then, my mind was entirely focused on James, and I just gave him a quick glance. All I knew was that he was a young and handsome guy. I never thought fate would bring us together later on. I laughed and cried, pointing at the picture of the two of us like a child, but couldn't say anything. Lucas hugged me from behind. Remember I said I used to like someone? He touched the brooch, resting his chin against my neck. Emma, I once told myself, when I get that sapphire brooch, I'll tell you. The one I fancy is you. I was obsessed with romance novels in my youth. There's a term often used to describe a male lead. A gentlemanly beast. It's actually a disguised compliment, but I never thought a man like Lucas could have that beastly side. On our wedding day, he was all dignified and handsome, like a snow-capped mountain. But on the wedding night, once the clothes were off, he turned into a beast. For the first time, I heard so many passionate love words. For the first time, I was coaxed into those embarrassing positions. For the first time, I cried when it hurt and cried when it felt good. The first time I experienced love's pleasures, I spent a wild, tireless night. Pompeii Chapter 20, the morning after the next day, after becoming a bride, I slept past noon, still in bed. Lucas had already completed his morning run, workouts, tea, reading the paper, and catching up on the news. A few days after the wedding, the house staff laughed as they told me, "Mom, you wouldn't believe how much Lucas was smiling that day." You know, in all the years I've been at the Lucas house, it was the first time I saw him talk so much in the morning, greeting everyone. I think he'd love to carry a megaphone just to tell the world he's married and he loves his bride so much. I was both embarrassed and amused. I quickly made up an excuse to hide in the garden. I saw Lucas's car drive through the gate. He got out, handed his briefcase and coat to the servant, and immediately looked toward me. "Lucas!" I stood among the flowers, waving and jumping with a smile. My pony had been sent to Germany yesterday. Lucas arranged everything himself. It was well cared for and seemed perfectly fine. When I saw it yesterday, it happily pranced around me, Lucas smiled, seeing me smile. He brushed aside the lush greenery and walked toward me. But by the time he got close, I was already running into his arms. He stopped, shook his head helplessly, but opened his arms wide. When I leapt into his embrace, he held me tightly. "Welcome home, Mrs. Emma," he whispered against my hair. And for the first time in my life, I truly felt like I was home. Chapter 22, the final revelation. 6 months later, I received an unexpected call. It was from Gina, James's cousin. "Emma," her voice was strangely subdued. "I thought you should know. James and Ava, they're getting divorced." I was in the garden, watching Lucas play with our new puppy. The afternoon sun painted everything golden. "Oh," I said simply, "that's all." "Oh," Gina sounded incredulous. "Emma, aren't you even curious why?" Honestly, I wasn't. But she told me anyway. Hay found out about the pregnancy. It wasn't his baby. Ava had been seeing someone else the entire time. She orchestrated everything, the bathroom incident, the engagement timing, even getting pregnant. She thought she could trap him. I watched Lucas laugh as the puppy knocked him over. His joy was infectious, pure. "And Emma," Gina continued, "he kept asking about you. Where you were, if you were happy. He even tried to contact you several times, but your number was blocked. I hope he finds peace." I said, and I meant it. "That's it. After everything." "Gina, that's everything." I hung up and walked toward my husband. "Who was that?" Lucas asked, pulling me down beside him on the grass. "The past," I said, snuggling into his warmth. "Just the past saying goodbye." Lucas kissed the top of my head. "Good, the present is much better anyway." And as I lay there in his arms, surrounded by laughter and love and the promise of tomorrow, I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply living well. Sometimes it's finding someone who sees your worth from the very beginning. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's discovering that what you thought was love was just a lesson preparing you for the real thing. Paquet epilogue. 1 year later, a year after my wedding, I received a package with no return address. Inside was the pink diamond ring James had given me for my 18th birthday. The same ring I'd returned to him along with all his other gifts. There was a note, written in his familiar handwriting. "Emma, I was wrong about everything. I hope he loves you the way you deserve to be loved. I hope he sees what I was too blind to see. Be happy. You deserve the world." James, I showed the note to Lucas. "What do you want to do with it?" he asked. I looked at the ring, sparkling in the afternoon light. Once upon a time, it had meant everything to me. Now it was just a pretty stone. "Donate it," I said. "Let it bring joy to someone who really needs it." Lucas smiled and kissed me. "I love how kind your heart is." "I love how you love my heart," I replied. And as we walked hand in hand to the charity foundation, I realized something beautiful. The girl who used to cry over someone who didn't want her had grown into a woman who was cherished by someone who chose her every single day. That, my friends, is not just a happy ending. That's a perfect beginning. 2. Thank you so much for joining me on Emma's incredible journey from heartbreak to true happiness. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or reminded you of your own worth, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Please give this video a like if Emma's transformation inspired you, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about love, growth, and finding your own happy ending. Remember, sometimes what feels like the end is really just the beginning of something beautiful. Until next time, keep believing in your own worth. You deserve a love that chooses you every single day.